بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في كل لحظة أبدا على نعم الله وأفضاله. اللهم آتنا من لدنك رحمة وعلمنا من لدنك علما. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نوينا تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم، ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني مشرب الصافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم ألهمنا علما نفقه به أوامرك ونواهيك، وارزقنا فهما نعرف به كيف نناجيك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك فهم النبي وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم إنا نستودعك ما قرأناه وما نقرأه في هذا المجلس وما قبله وما بعده، فاحفظه علينا حتى ترده إلينا وقت احتياجنا إليه يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أكرمنا بنور الفهم وأخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وافتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا حكمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم يا من مقاليد الأمور كلها بيده وإليه يرجع الأمر كله، يا فتاح يا عليم، يا فتاح يا عليم، يا فتاح يا عليم، افتح علينا فتحا قريبا. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وسدد لساني واهدي قلبي وافعل كذلك بأحبابي أبدا، وارزقنا كمال فتوح العارفين والفقه في الدين مع كمال الإخلاص والصدق واليقين والعافية والغنى والنصر والحفظ والنفع والانتفاع وخيرات الدارين وعلوم الأولين والآخرين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. Okay, let's continue for class. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. So we last week we went through the minimum menses and the average length, and then the no, we didn't do that. We did this one. Sorry. So disoriented today. We went through this. I went back up to here, right, on the colors of menses. Remember, I went through the colors of menses last week. I went through the minimum menses, right, and then the maximum menses. Right, so Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'll just read from the Arabic again. من كتاب تذكرة الحضرمية فيما يجب على النساء من الأمور الدينية، تأليف العلامة السيد محمد بن سالم بن حفيظ العلوي الحسيني الحضرمي الشافعي نفعنا الله به وبعلومه في الدارين. From the book The Hadrami Reminder on what is compulsory on every woman on women to know of the affairs of their religion, by the great scholar Sayyid Muhammad bin Salim bin Hafiz, right, from the Ba'alawi, from the line of Sayyidina Hussein up to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Hadramaut of the Shafi'i Mazhab. May Allah benefit us by him and by his knowledge in both abodes, and may Allah reward him greatly on our behalf. I hope you all those who are here, because mashallah, one thing about seeking knowledge is that istiqamah is the most difficult part. The istiqamah. So I hope you all stick to these classes. The book will we're right now in the fiqh part, and when really like in the midst of the entire part of law and jurisprudence and everything lah, it gets heavier and heavier. But towards the end of this book is actually mashallah, he goes into a lot of inward sciences, right? Which is very beautiful, inshallah. Right, so I hope that you all stick to it. But inshallah, we'll try and every now and then republicize. When we republicize, more will come in, inshallah. Okay, alhamdulillah. Right, so he says to what he has said. Naam. Okay, so he says here, from last week, so ثم إن استمر الدم يوما وليلة أي 24 ساعة فأكثر تبين أنه دم الحيض، وإن انقطع قبل مضي يوم وليلة ولم يعد في مدة 15 يوما من ظهوره تبين أنه دم فساد، فيجب عليها قضاء الصلاة التي تركتها وقضاء الصوم الذي تركته. أما إذا انقطع قبل يوم وليلة ولكنه عاد في يوم الثاني أو ما بعده إلى تمام 15 يوما وتكملت بالعائد 24 ساعة فالجميع حيض، بشرط أن لا يزيد الدم على 15 يوما، وإلا فتجري فيها أحكام المستحاضة. نعم. Okay, right. So I'm going to give examples for this. So he says here, right. So he says here. So we went through the colors of menstrual blood the last lesson. Then he says here, then if a blood continues for a day and night, 24 hours or more, then it is clear that it is the blood of menses. However, if it stops before a day and a night has passed and does not return during the span of 15 days and the nights, counting from when it is seen, then it's clear it is the blood of illness and not menses. Hence, in this case, it will be compulsory for her to make up any missed prayers during this period, and to make up the fast left. And to make up the fast left during this period. Any fast that was left during this period. However, if the blood stops before a day and night passes, then it returns the next day or even after that, within 15 days of when it was first seen, and the flow put all together covers 24 hours, then all of those days and what is in between will all be considered as menstrual days. However, if the overall flow does not reach 24 hours within the 15-day window, then the ruling of the entire time of that is istihada. Did I give you all examples on this? I don't think I did, right? Okay, I'm going to give examples. We're going to do case studies. The best way to understand menses is case study. That's the best way. So I'm going to give you all case studies. Okay, so here you see our first case study. Where's my pen? Case study. Okay. Okay, all the case studies. So first situation. Okay. So first situation. Use let's see if I can do this. Okay, tak apa. Never mind. Okay. So first situation, right? So on the first, the first of doesn't matter whether it's an Islamic month or whether it's a Gregorian month, doesn't matter. right? As long as you're able to count number of days. Okay, so you see the 1st of Jan. Okay, I'm going to put all the principles by the side. I'm going to put the principles here. So the first principle is okay. What's our first principle? The first principle is overall blood flow must be more than 24 hours put together. Okay. Number 2, blood flow must not exceed 15 days from when it was first seen. Okay. This is already with an understanding that there has been 15 days of prayer from the previous menses. Okay, I have the understanding. Okay, so the first case scenario on the 1st of Jan. Okay, so I'm going to draw the timeline. First case scenario. So Mariam sees this going on. Okay, so on the 1st of Jan, right, she sees slightly dark, okay, light brown. Okay, she's at stain, right? The first thought that should come to her head is, has there been 15 days of prayer? If the answer is yes, then stop praying. Okay, just by the first sight of color, alright, the first sight of color, that is not your normal discharge. Be very clear, it's not your normal discharge. You can tell. Please be able to tell. Okay, it's not your normal discharge. Alright, so you look at it, it's not the normal yellow that you get for your discharge. If you look at yellow discharge, if you get white, then the color would be a sign that it is menses. You see, even if you say, but it's only spotting, it's menses. Stop praying. Okay, stop praying. She thinks she's on menses, she stops praying, and then she sees on the next day nothing going on. On the third day, nothing going on. Right, now she's wondering about that orange dot. Okay, right now she's confused. Okay, second day there was nothing there. Third day there was nothing there. Right, she's wondering, should she continue praying? And then so this is usually case scenario lah. So at this point she's wondering, right? So usually if I have students who by this time they'll text me already. They will say, Zaza, I saw light brown on the 1st of January, and then 2 days has passed and I've seen nothing. Now what should I do? Right, so of course I'll ask them the first question: has there been 15 days since your last menses? If they reply in the affirmative, then I'll say, is this your normal menses time? That's my second question. Alright, so they say, they look at the previous records. They say, okay, last month my menses came around the 2nd, right, of December. Okay, so kind of correct lah. It's kind of correct. Okay, it's around your menses time. Then I ask the third question: do you feel the symptoms of menses? And then she says, yeah, kind of feel crampy, right, or feel off lah. Like I feel my normal symptoms lah. Some different women have different symptoms. Some women feel crampy. Some women feel some women feel cranky. So crampy and cranky. And then some women feel they have swollen breasts, right, and so on lah. So you should kind of know your body. Be very, very in tune with your body. You kind of like it. So she says, I kind of feel all my symptoms of menses coming. So I'll say to her, give it one more day. Okay, give it one more day and wait, see if it comes. Alright, usually they give one more day, the blood comes the next day. Right, if one more day comes, so let's say this person, okay, the next day, okay, usually for most cases, right, what I find is that they give it one more day and then they have full red flow, full blown menses will come. Usually that will happen. Okay, I don't want to give a standard simple scenario. Okay, I want to give a difficult scenario. Alright, so okay, let's say she waits one more day. Alright, she sees brown the very next day. Okay, this brown happened. Okay, so the first day, right? The darker, the light brown, right? It happened around maybe 2 p.m. Okay, 2 p.m. She checked at 4 p.m. She still saw it, right? And then it stopped at 5 p.m. So on the first day, she kind of had 3 hours, right? 3 hours of flow. What do you call, what is the definition of flow? The definition of flow is that whenever you check your discharge, it's colored. Okay? Right? So it's not that it's continuously flowing, but that your discharge is continuously colored. Get it? Alright? So she saw at 2 p.m. Right? She came to the toilet again at 4. Her liner was completely dry, nothing on liner. But when she dug a little bit and she looked at her discharge, yes, it is dark, it is light brown. And then she put on a new line. She used the same liner like when there's nothing there, right? It's not dirty. So then she came back again at 5 o'clock. So maybe she saw on her liner there was some color, right, on the liner. She checked again her discharge. She saw it was white. It had become white by 5 o'clock. Okay, Allah Alam. Roughly lah. It's a rough estimate. Because you can't be confirmed like when did it stop, kan? It's all happening inside of you. Okay, and then this is the second, this is the third, this is the fourth. Okay, on the 4th of January, she saw some more brown. Okay, it happened again at 2 p.m. Okay, and it stopped at 5 p.m. So, like some sort of pattern going on. Okay, so it happened again, 2 to 5, it happened. So another 3 hours. Okay, and then a few more days pass by, nothing happens. So this brown kind of caught her off guard, right? Nothing happens. 3 more days pass by. So 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then now she messaged me again. So I don't know what's going on. And I said to her, okay, just wait lah. Right, you still feel crampy, right? You feel actually, now I feel very crampy. So she waits. Then maybe on day 8, right, she finds some more blood, like some more brown coming out, and she says again it happened from 2 to 5. Okay, and then it stopped. Okay, this is very abnormal, very abnormal. So far she's seen 1, 2, 3, 9 hours. Okay, 9 hours of flow. Okay, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right, and then 15 days. Okay, maybe on the 12th again, some more brown comes out. It seems like every few days it comes out. Then 2 to 5 p.m. again, it came out. Sometimes the boy does this, right? It came out, so there was nothing, right, and nothing. So altogether, her flow in the entire 15 days, 3 times 4, 12 hours of flow. Correct? Altogether, 12 hours of flow. It does not make the 24 mark, which means Alhamdulillah, the entire time she was not experiencing menses. It was not menses. And because altogether her flow did not hit the 24-hour mark. Alright? What does this mean? This means that the entire time she had left her prayer, she must qada all the prayers. Slowly lah, at her time. At her own time, she will qada all the 15 days of prayer. Eventually. Usually, if this happens to a person, what I would recommend is that if this happens the second time round, like that. So usually if it becomes the first spotting, usually if you're having your menses, it will come blood thereafter. It will come blood. But if you're seeing spotting, empty, white, spotting, white, what I would say is go and test yourself if you are pregnant. Go and test. Okay? At that point, go and test. Alright? So if you're saying, I can all this weird spotting. So if you test yourself and then you find yourself to be pregnant, then now you know it's istihada in pregnancy. It is istihada in pregnancy. It is not menses. So meaning at this point in time, or for example on day 4, if it happens like that, and you test yourself and you find that you are pregnant, then begin to pray. Begin to pray. You don't. Do you have to bathe from major hadath? No, you were never in major hadath. There was no major hadath for you, right? Because did menses happen for you? No, right? But it is basically spotting because of pregnancy. All right. So usually, my advice would be go and check yourself to be pregnant. If you check yourself, you're not pregnant, right? Then I will actually at this point I will say begin to pray. Usually, I will say begin to pray. Right? Something else is going on with your body. Right? So because usually the first few days of spotting, there should be the blood flow already. Right? So especially if I know the age of the person. So all studies lah. Like if I know your age, if you're menopausal, if you're in your 50s. So if you're in your 50s or 60s, I won't say check for pregnancy. I probably think menopause lah. Menopause. Okay. So most women should not be having abnormality in their bleeding. Most women. Okay. If you're having abnormality in your bleeding, right, like this kind of thing, then usually I will check. Did you take any pills recently? Did you put in any device, any IUD device or whatsoever? Did you do anything to your body that could have caused this? Okay, so because menstruation is very sensitive in regards to your health, right? So you must have done something to cause it to be haywire, right? You must have done something. Okay, now, so this entire thing, she is not on her menses at all. Right, so if she had left the prayer, then this is why usually I try to do an intervention by the 5th day or the 6th day. So you try and do something, try and figure out if the menses is coming. Alright, so if it's really abnormal, so maybe by the 8th day, like this, if it happens on the 8th day like that, I will already say to her, go and pray. Start praying. Right? Otherwise, if you're going to wait out the entire 15 days, right, then you're going to cut out 15 days. Alright, and they'll be very heavy on you. Right, so usually by the 8th day, if you come to me and you say to me, this is going on with you, I will say you start praying. High chances you're not getting menses. High chances. If you start praying, and then menses comes, then honest mistake. There is no sin on that. There is no sin on that. Nah. Okay, what if, let me just, okay, I hope you all took this example down. Okay, so now I'm going to erase. I'm going to give a new example. Okay, so a new example is, let me erase all these parts. I'm going to keep the same diagram. Okay, new example. Alright, so first day of spotting. Okay, brown again lah. Okay, so first day of spotting. Again, 3 hours of spotting. Okay, so 2 to 5 spot. Next day 2 to 5 spot. 2 to 5 spot. 2 to 5 spot. 2 to 5 spotting. So every day from 2 to 5, right, this person is getting spotting, right? So it's 3 hours altogether. So 25 divided by 24 divided by 3 is 8, right? So by the 8th day, they pass the 24-hour mark, correct? Which means that the entire, so they say for example, and then here clean, alright? So every day she check herself. It's like spotting. Again, it's abnormal. It is abnormal. And I will actually go and get her to go and check if she's pregnant also. Whenever things are abnormal, go and check if you're pregnant. And if you're married lah. Otherwise, go and check if you're taking any hormonal stuff whatsoever. Be prepared lah. If you're changing your diet, you're changing your medication, you're changing whatever, be prepared for your menses. Or if you're migrating to a different country, changing climate, all these things lah will affect your menses. If you felt very sick recently, all of these things will affect your menses. Okay. So usually I make her to go and check whether she's pregnant. If she's pregnant, then high chances is istihada in pregnancy. Right? But if she's not pregnant, then the whole thing from here to here, which is more than 24 hours, is menses. Yeah, the whole thing is menses. Even though the colour never changed. Okay? Even though the colour never changed. Alright, so the blood flow must not exceed 15 days from when it was first seen. So overall blood flow put together must be 24 hours altogether, right? And then it must not go more than 15 days. So it's clear. Okay, if it goes more than 15 days, then now you have gone into the story of istihada, right? Into the release of istihada, which we will cover. Is it now? Let me check. Right, we'll talk about istihada later on or not. Okay, menses and then. Okay, istihada later on. Okay, istihadah is later on. Alright, so when I go into istihadah, I'll go into the cases for istihadah. Alright, so even if so for as long as you're within the 15-day mark, you're safe, menses. So even if you say no, but my norm is 7 days. You see, my norm is 7 days. So I've never. So even if somebody were to be brown all the way up till the 15th day, and did not exceed the 15th day, and every day is like 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours of brown discharge. All together is 30 hours. More than 24 hours is menses. The whole thing menses. Even you see it's not your norm. Is within 15 days is menses. Right? So basically the ruling stands. Right? The ruling stands. Okay, if it goes beyond 15 days, so if on the 16 days, 17 day, 18 day, all the brown continues, then we will go into the laws of istihadah to figure out when did your istihadah begin, if this was the entire thing was istihadah or not. Okay, so ruling is that istihadah does not necessarily begin on the 15th day. It can begin from before the 15th day. But when I get into the laws of istihadah, I'll speak about that. Alright, and later on istihadah is a chapter by itself. I'm not gonna go into that now out of so as not to confuse anybody. But for now, we're gonna take things step by step. Alright. So okay. I hope this is clear. Yeah, someone say whenever you take a pregnancy test, your period comes within 24 hours. Yeah, it's happens to me all the time. It comes to the point I just stop taking it. Because it's really it's late 1-2 days. You know what? Give it 5 days, 6 days, or 7 days to be late, right? And then check it. Right, check it. Especially if nothing's coming out, so you don't have a reason to try and figure out what the discharges are. Right? If nothing's coming out at all, right, then give it 7 days. Give it a week. Right, and then if it's really nothing coming out, then go and check. Inshallah. Okay. Let me just go back to the document. All right. So if the blood stops before a day and a night passes, meaning 24 hours, and so if the blood stops and returns the next day, or within the 15 days of when it was first seen, and altogether it covers 24 hours, then the whole time, even the times in between where there was no bleeding, the whole thing is menses. Alright. However, if the whole flow did not reach 24 hours during the 15-day window, right, then the ruling of the entire time is istihadah. Right, istihadah means what? You have to qada the fasting and the praying. Alright? Okay. So let me just go into this. The minimum menses and the average length and the maximum menses, maximum length of menses, which we kind of went through just now. Right? So the minimum, I'm just going to read through. The minimum period of menses, of a time for menses is 1 day and 1 night of flow. Right? So if let's say I saw blood today at 5 p.m. and it flowed all the way until tomorrow 5 p.m. and then it stopped. Did I experience menses? Answer is yes. I experienced menses. Right, so was only 1 day. Yeah, it's only 1 day. Alhamdulillah, if you're happy Ramadan, Alhamdulillah, you're so happy. Like your entire menses out in 1 day. And then you bathe lah. You bathe and then you continue, right, as usual. If you think that it stopped lah. But if let's say high chances is that menses will taper off. Not high chances, it's just the nature of menses. It will taper off. Right. So if the blood just stopped itself after 24 hours, so it was like deep red blood for 24 hours, then all of a sudden it stopped. Right? I don't know where it stopped. High chances it's coming back. Right? So don't be so quick to go and bathe. Wait. Okay, so same thing to be said about your cycle itself. Right? So I'm going to draw it here also. Just as basically so that people will be more careful. You cannot take a bath if you're not sure if you're clean. Okay, your bath is not valid, right? So you can. What if I don't pray? Then I dosa. I'm sinful, right? I don't want to miss my prayers. If you are not clean, you cannot pray. So don't be hasty. And Rasulullah, in fact, he himself scolded the woman, right? Not scolded, but in a sense, reprimanded them, because they kept asking, "Is this clean? Is this clean? Is this clean? Is this clean?" And then he said, "Wait until it becomes white, and don't be hasty. Wait." Right? Just wait for it. Wait for it. Okay? Don't know like, I want to bathe lah, I scared. And then no, you're not being righteous by doing that. You're not being righteous by doing that. Right? Be clear. With full yaqeen, I have white, I bathe. Okay? So if someone's having their menses from here all the way to here. Okay? So if someone's having, so normal day, first day of menses, and it continues. Right, so if let's say on the 5th day, right, of menses, and please, oh women, as we grow older, our wombs get weaker. Alright, so especially for those of you here who are transiting from being in your 30s to being in your 40s. Right, or being from your 40s to being in your 50s. Right, your womb as a 20-year-old is not the same as your womb as your 30-year-old. And your 30-year-old womb is not the same as your 40-year-old womb. And your 40-year-old womb is not the same as your 50-year-old womb. Right, so I've had so many people, when they come from 20s to 30s, they will say, "It's never happened to me before." Yeah, you've never been 30 before. It's your first time you're being 30. So just be, embrace aging. You're aging. Right, so your womb will begin to leak. Your womb is leaking, right? So don't be usually 5 days only it will stop, and it won't come back. But this time around 5 days, it was red all the way, and then on the 5th day it became brownish, right? And then it stopped, right? So if the brown was this kind of dark brown, high chances it's not done. Okay, it's not done. Probably will give it some time. Right? Usually it will have to become something like, why is it drawing itself? Okay lah, now my Allah. Okay, my computer jam itself. Apa? Allah. Okay, tak apalah. So anyway, usually it's around this kind of yellow, right? It's kind of like light brown yellow, right? Then you know it's finishing soon. Okay, but if it's a dark brown, high chances it's not going to stop. Then it will taper off. Okay, menses will taper off. Yeah, my computer jam. Okay, right. So now, okay. So the minimum period of time for menses is 1 day and 1 night. Right. So if someone did honestly for 24 hours, saw their menses begin at 5 p.m., then during the 24 hours they actually saw it taper off. So by the time when the next day at 5 p.m, it was really yellowish and it became white. Okay, and I met women whose menses are 2 days. It's literally 2 days. And the second day, alhamdulillah, some people, mashallah, they're so easy. 3 days only finish. So their wombs are strong. They're very strong wombs. So the wombs will just expel the blood very quickly. So all the blood out, and then in the second day it becomes white straight away, and she can bathe, and she has become clean from her menses. Okay, I can't do anything in my screen. Allah, cannot do anything with my screen. Okay, never mind. So 1 day and 1 night, meaning the length of time for this, which is 24 hours of oral flow put together. Continuous flow means if a piece of cotton is inserted into the privates, it will come out coloured. Okay, so this is the important note. Continuous flow means every time a piece of cotton is inserted into the privates, it will come out coloured. The average days for menses is 6 to 7. Most women should be around this range, and that is a healthy range. Maximum is 15 days, right? No more than 15 days. Hence, if the blood flow altogether were to be less than 24 hours, or the period of time from the first sight of blood has been more than 15 hours, then it is istihada. I can't move my screen. I changed to my tab. How do I? Alhamdulillah. Okay. Yeah, so some blood can get stuck to the walls. So, wait. Did I say 15 hours? Yeah, sorry. it is 15 days. Typo there. Ya Allah, Ya Rabbi. Okay, now. Okay, so continuing from there. So now he says, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. فهو استحاضة. Okay, now nifas. Okay, so you actually finished the entire chapter of menses. Okay, done. So now, so basically, if you're normal, as in like if you're within the average, physical bleeding. If you're within basically the average days, you're okay. It's simple. You see white, you bathe. Dah. Right? You see red, you see any color, you stop praying. Right? When you see color, you check first. Has there been 15 days of prayer? Yeah, 15 days of prayer. So stop praying lah. Stop praying, and then when you see white, you bathe straight away. Don't wait. If you've seen white and you're very sure it's done, then don't wait. Just go and bathe. But if you see kind of like it's still dark colored, and you're not sure if it's done, then wait. Right? Until you have yaqeen that it is done. But the misconception of society is that they think you have to wait for 24 hours when you see the white. No. When you see the white and you're very sure you're done, right, then go and bathe straight away. There is no waiting for 24 hours. That is a misconception in our society. Okay, nifas. Okay, so think about nifas. Right, definition of nifas. What is nifas? هو النفاس هو دم الخارج عقب الولادة وأقل زمنه لحظة وغالبه 40 يوما وأكثره 60 يوما فلو جاوز الدم 60 يوما فهو الاستحاضة. نعم. So nifas, it is the blood that comes out of the womb after birth. Okay, the minimum duration is a moment of blood. So menses is 24 hours. Nifas is a moment. The minimum nifas is a moment of blood, and the average is 40 days. While the maximum duration is 60 days. Okay. Alright. So, if the blood exceeds 60 days, then it is istihada. Okay, and then again, we'll have to look into your nifas to see when the istihada began. Right, so again, istihada does not begin specifically on the 60th day, right? It's basically on the 60th day you know you're going to istihada, right? But it does not necessarily begin on the 60th day. It could have begun from before that, and only through looking at the colors of your blood and through your norm that we will be able to identify if the istihada began before that. Same thing for menses. At the 15th day, right, that is when you know you're going to istihada. But it does not mean that your istihada actually began on the 15th day. It could have begun earlier than that, and that is only figured out when we look into your blood colors and we also look into your norm. Right, so then we will be able to figure out when did your istihada actually begin. Okay, so nifas, very important. It is a blood that comes out of the womb after birth. Right, so what is the meaning of after birth? Right, the meaning of after birth, right, is put it in blue. After birth, it means the emptying. Right, is the emptying of the womb. Of the womb, right, of any human form. Okay, this is the emptying of the womb of any or all, right? Any and all human form. Okay, so human form can come in several ways. So even if it's a miscarriage, I'm going to speak about this, right? Twins. okay, false, I don't know what it's called, I forgot the name for it, but false pregnancy. Okay, so later I get the term for it, because I was discussing this with some of the ustazat about these things. Right, so first and foremost, a woman needs to be able to identify that she was actually carrying human form. Right, that she was actually carrying human form. So you can say, but what does it mean that she was? Is it possible for her not to carry human form? You mean jinn? No lah, I don't mean jinn. I mean that there was no human, there was no baby in her womb, right? But basically, it could have been an empty sac. Right, some women have this, right, an empty amniotic sac with no fetus inside. Okay, some women actually get this. Right, the fertilized egg actually never implanted itself into the wall of the womb, right? But instead it just died lah. It died, right? So the body actually began to prepare for implantation. There was fertilization, but the body was preparing for implantation, but it never happened. So the body actually begins to form a placenta, and the body actually begins to form an amniotic sac. It actually happens more common than what we realize. But the body will detect this within 2 months, right, of this happening. So when the body realizes there's no growth, right, in the woman, right, then the body realizes there's no baby there. There's no baby. So the body, what the body do? The body will discard what it had formed, right? So this entire thing can imitate pregnancy. The whole thing from start to end can imitate pregnancy, which is so amazing, because our ulama say that you must be a minimum of 2 months pregnant before you can actually ascertain you were pregnant. Right? So hormonal tests and even heartbeat tests, which you can't tell before 2 months, are not counted. They actually cannot conclusively say that a woman was pregnant. No matter how advanced the science is, they can't actually conclusively say. Before 2 months, they can't conclusively say a woman was pregnant. Our fuqaha, or the ulama, have figured this out hundreds of years ago. Before 2 months, you can't actually conclusively say somebody was pregnant. Right? So even if all the symptoms were there, and the entire morning sickness, and the entire everything was there, right? If the miscarriage happened prior to 2 months of pregnancy, not of when you not of from the last day of the previous menses. I know in our zaman, in our time, they will count your pregnancy age, so called like how far along you are to your previous menses. Correct, if I'm not wrong. Right? They will count. They'll say when was your previous menses, and they will count to there. No, that's not how it's counted in Islam. In Islam, no. In Islam, it's basically like if you can roughly estimate, right, when the pregnancy happened. That means when there was actually that means when you're expecting your menses. So it's from the point where you're expecting your menses, okay, but not from the point where your previous menses was. So if let's say I was expecting my menses on the 1st of January, right, and my previous menses ended on the 7th of December, right? It's a good almost 3 weeks between my previous menses and when I was expecting my menses, right? Okay, as far as I know, in our age, they will count your pregnancy from when your menses ended. Correct? Is that where they will count it from? They will count from where your menses ended, and not when your menses is supposed to come. Because technically, your menses is supposed to come. So technically your pregnancy happened a week, 2 weeks before about 2 weeks roughly before your menses was supposed to come, right? So after your menses ended, about a week later, that's when you ovulated. Correct? So now I'm missing my bio. Right? So technically after menses ended, right? So it's very rough. It's very rough, right? So the scholars will say 2 months, meaning 2 missed pregnancies. The scholars will say that 2 missed pregnancies at the very least. Pregnancies pula. Sorry. 2 missed cycles. La hawla wala quwwata illa billah. 2 pregnancy pula. Right, 2 missed cycles. Okay? So if I'm supposed to get my menses on the 1st of January, right, and basically maybe every month I get my menses on the first week of the month. Every month something like that, right? So more or less first week of the month, that's where I get my menses. So the first month where I'm supposed to get my menses, I missed it. Okay, there was no menses. I tested, it was positive pregnancy. False pregnancy can test positive, right? And even when they test your pulse, they can feel the heartbeat of the baby, but actually they can't. It's not that, it's something else, right? So and then the second month comes and you miss your menses again, right? So 2 months in a row you missed menses. All right, okay, this now in Islam means that you have gone past the second month. Okay, you've gone past the second month and the second missed menses. All right, so now there's this possibility that you are actually pregnant. Okay, so in Islam they give 2 months because false pregnancy will be detected by the body within 2 months. The body will detect it, and by the second menses, the body will detect that there is no growth in the womb, and the body will discard whatever it had produced, whatever it had formed, it will discard. So you would think that you miscarried, but actually there was never a baby there. It's hard to hear lah, right? But there was actually never a baby there. So I want to share let me just share. I hope my Bismillah. Let me get my, because it happened to my cousin, and then she was asking me about it, and I gave her all the resources about it. Let me see, get the resources. Just I mean to expand our knowledge lah. Mashallah. Let me just clear all my drawings. Okay, so basically, so she messaged me and she said that she was into her 7th week of pregnancy, but the 7 weeks, was counted from when her last menses. Okay, it was counted from her last menses. Right, so okay, it's called a blighted ovum. Let me share this with you all. Allah, what happened? You can Google it. Okay, never mind. Let me just search it up. Okay, I'm going to share with you all. Share for knowledge, inshallah. Okay, so basically, it's called a blighted ovum. The ulama actually identified this a long time ago. Honestly, I'm so amazed by our ulama. How do you know all this stuff? And without modern day science, right? How did they figure this out, right? So so basically this is one of the situations, right? So whereby fertilized eggs, there was a fertilized egg attached to the uterine wall, does not develop into an embryo. Okay, so there was no development whatsoever, right? The body will usually, sometimes some egg doesn't even implant. I don't say implants, right? So I basically was reading up more about it, right? About this, and it actually happens more frequently than normal, more frequently than we think. Right, more frequently than we think, right? So usually the body will you can go and search for it up yourself lah. This is the word, blighted ovum, right? So it doesn't become an embryo, right? So there was no human form actually, right? So usually the body will detect this by 2 months. The body will detect, and then the body will discard, right? So a woman might think she's pregnant, but she was actually never pregnant. Right, so the ulama will say, is there a human form? You must be able to identify a human form, right? And the only way to identify a human form, right, is by looking at what was discarded. Okay, it's difficult, I know. When my cousin messaged me, I said, do you have the lump that was discarded? Do you have it? And she was like, no, she couldn't bear to look at it, and she just discarded it. She couldn't bear to look at it, right? So then I said, alamak, then we need to be able to see it, to see if ask someone it's called al-khibra, people of experience in the past, especially when regards to midwives, they can tell if what they're looking at, the lump, is it originally a human form, or is it just discarded placenta, for example. What is it? So don't just assume it's human form. So hormonal tests, right, and even how early do they actually do the your Sayyidina Muhammad, I forgot what it's called. It's the scanning, sila. What's it called? Yeah, how early can they scan? How early can they scan? Okay, ultrasound now. Sheila, I forgot the word. Ultrasound at 6 weeks. What do they see? What do they claim to see? What do they see? A bean. Is it human form? Can you see a head with a body? Is it really a head? Is it really a head? Or they tell you it's a head? Is it really a head? Or because at 6 weeks you cannot see. The ulama say you can't see. At 6 weeks it's not possible. It's not possible. They tell it to you, but it's not possible. Our scholars say that it's not possible. At below 2 months, it's not possible to tell human form. It's not possible below 2 months to tell human form. Yeah, there's no head shape. There's no head shape. They tell you all kinds of things. They can tell you all kinds of things, right? But it's not it's not human form, and they can't it's not human form. It's one blob, right? Yeah. So technically the they say all kinds of things lah, right? But our scholars say below 2 months not possible. Below 2 months, not possible to conclusively say what's in you is a human form, right? So if someone misses 2 months of pregnant or 2 months of menses, you cannot conclusively say you are pregnant yet. Right? You have to miss a 3rd month, right? A 3rd month of pregnancy, a 3rd month of menses, then can conclusively say there was a pregnancy. So if there was a miscarriage later on, this is important. Why? Because the blood that comes out with the miscarriage, right, you need to be able to give it the ruling, is this nifas or is this menses, right? And the biggest difference between nifas and menses is that nifas gives you a maximum of 60 days of no prayer for the blood to clear, right? Whereas menses gives you a maximum of 15 days for the blood to clear. Otherwise, you go into istihada. Okay, istihada is bleeding, right, due to illness. Okay, this is the biggest issue. All right, so you need to be able to identify, is this blood menses or nifas? Right, so what comes out of you, right? If you can bring it to someone who can tell you conclusively it is a human form, right? I mean, that means asluhu adami. In Arabic, they will say asluhu adami. Its origin is human. The origin is human. Which actually, below 2 months, I asked my teacher so many times this question: what if the science can do it? What if they can scan it? What if they can, what if they can conclusively prove that somebody below 2 months of pregnancy was indeed pregnant with a human being? She said, not possible. It's not possible. Our scholars have done extensive research on this. It's not possible below 2 months to conclusively say that you were pregnant. Has to be more than 2 months. So basically, any miscarriage short of 2 months, automatically the blood is given the ruling of menses and not nifas, because you cannot conclusively say it was human. You can't. Okay, so even if all the hormonal tests and whatsoever point to pregnancy, right? So even that kind of false pregnancy can give positive results. So the science still cannot conclusively say you were pregnant with a human form. The science still cannot do that. Okay, so I hope you all can understand. Important lah. Important. It happens to a lot of people. Okay. Someone said a question. If I had 8 days of menses, then clear from day 9 to 11, then suddenly on day 12 there is a brown discharge for 2 hours. Is it considered part of my menses? Though the texture is more of discharge instead of blood. If it's brown, it's blood. If it's brown, it's blood. Regardless of texture. If it's brown, it's blood. Right. So let me just take your question. I'm going to put it out. Okay. Your question here. Okay. This is the question that I just saw. Where is this one? Okay. This is the question. Alright, so if I had 8 days of menses and then clear from 9 to 11, right? And on day 12, you see brown. Brown is a very clear. It's not a color of your discharge. If you see brown, it's blood. And brown can only come from blood. Right? So that means your menses is all the way until day 12. Your menses is all the way until day 12. From day 9 to 11, it was clear, right? If you had fasted in those days of Ramadan, you need to make up those fasts. Right? The fasts were not counted. That means your menses was from day 1 to day 12. Right? That was your menses, Right? So that is part of your menses, regardless of texture. Okay. Okay, now. Okay. So first thing I was mentioning about after birth. Right. So the first thing in regards to birth, let me just write it down again. With regards to birth, right, you need to be able to identify if the birth was, first and foremost, has to be human. Birth means what? Human. Right, human form. Okay, right, after birth. Right, so that means any blood that comes out during labor, that blood is not nifas. You cannot stop praying yet. You need to continue praying. So even if you're in labor, already heavy labor, whatever it is, as long as the babies are not out, and I say babies because if you have more than one in there, right? So if more than one baby in your womb, all the babies must be out, then nifas begins. Okay, then nifas begins, then you can stop praying. Alright, but for as long as you're giving birth, if they have, for example, someone has twins or triplets, right? So the first baby comes out. Okay, then they wait for a while for the next baby to come out. Right, in between there's some blood. Okay, that blood has the ruling of istihada, not nifas. Okay, and the next baby comes out. So once the womb is emptied of all human form, then now the nifas actually begins. Okay, this is important. If someone gives birth across prayer time. It's only about that. Most people, alhamdulillah, from Allah's mercy, most people give birth in the night. Most people give birth in the night, and that is because of this. Allahu Alam, but this what they say is because of the gravitational pull of the moon. So the moon pulls on the fluids in the womb, and then facilitates birth. So Allahu Alam, but it's Allah's mercy that most women finish praying Isha already, and then they go into labor before subuh, and then they give birth before subuh. So kind of safe, most women. But if let's say that did not happen to you, right, and you actually went into labor right through prayer timings, right, and you missed those prayers, for example, you really couldn't pray and you missed those prayers, then later on, after you become clean from your nifas, you must remember to make up those prayers. Right, so you're like the person who actually, for example, like a woman who actually fell asleep, before Zohor, then slept for 2 hours into Zohor, woke up at 3 o'clock, went to the toilet, went to pray Zohor, and found she got her menses. You're like that person. Okay, technically you could have prayed the prayer, but because you were occupied beyond your control, you were occupied beyond your control. Right? So therefore, that prayer is still on you. You have to do it after you're clean from your menses. Right? So for nifas, as long as you can pray and the baby is still inside of you, you must pray. Right? So it's under the rules of istihada. Right? So the blood is continuously flowing, but the baby is not out yet. Baby is still inside. You're in labor. Then you're in istihada lah. under the rooms of istihadah. So the intentions will be permission to pray. You're going to istinja, take wudu, go and pray. If you can't stand, sit. If you can't sit, lie down. There are many ways by which you can still pray, right? So but if let's say you really cannot, or you're just bedridden, or they're going to bring you to the operation theatre, whatever they're going to do to you, if this happens, may Allah keep us protected. But if all these things happen to you and it's beyond your control, right, now it's beyond your ability also, then of course there's no sin on you. It's just that after you finish your nifas, go and make up those prayers later on. Okay, later on, make up those prayers. Okay, we're gonna take a break, but I'm gonna just answer some questions here. Okay, so the question here, even if you've got heartbeat, it's not a heartbeat. They tell you it's a heartbeat. It's not a heartbeat. Okay, they tell you it's a heartbeat, but it's not a heartbeat. Right? It's basically the pulse of the blood, the blood fluids through the placenta, whatever it is, but it's not. Right? I checked so many times with Baba. Right? 2 months and below, no. Some scholars even put it at 4 months. Right? So I'm giving you a lenient position. A more lenient position, 2 months and below. Right? There are scholars who put it at 4 months and below. Right? Cannot be counted as pregnancy. Okay, so there are actually two opinions about this, 2 or 4. Okay. Okay, about twins, basically the blood between twins lah. The blood between twins, that blood is not nifas. Because there is another, the womb is still occupied with human form. Okay, so when the womb is completely empty of human form, whether it is alive or dead, okay, doesn't matter, right? When the womb is empty of human form, then the blood that comes out is nifas lah. Okay. Okay. Somebody asked a question: do you have to follow pantang? I mean, basically, pantang is what is in English. All these laws, rulings about giving birth, right? So if somebody had a miscarriage in 2 months of pregnancy, technically there was no pregnancy. In Islam, there was no pregnancy to be counted. Right? 2 months of missed menses is not counted as pregnancy. 3 months, then they count as pregnancy. In fact, there's scholars who say 4 months, then we count pregnancy. Okay. Alright. Okay, for those who have questions that are not about this class, you can directly WhatsApp me about it. Alright, inshallah, I will take a break here, pre-Isha. So inshallah, next time round, I will continue about the nifas. Okay, barakallahu feekum. We'll stop here for today. And we stop here for now. We come back at 9:30, inshallah.